Let me tell you, there are moments in life when reality just slaps you so hard, you wonder if you're awake or if someone slipped a prank into your morning coffee. Coming back after a year, just 12 months gone, and finding two massive mansions standing tall where my grandparents' wildflowers once grew, that was one of those moments. $10 million in marble and glass were the only things that should have been shining were bluebonnets after a rain. The woman in charge, president of the HOA, greets me with a grin that'd make a crocodile nervous. In one hand, a clipboard of legal threats. On the other, my grandmother's wedding ring sparkling like it belonged to her all along. Then wham, she slaps a restraining order against my chest for trespassing on the only land that's ever felt like home to me. She didn't even try to hide her glee. She bragged about the loopholes that let them seize my family's land while I was overseas, told me the farmhouse, my childhood sanctuary, was bulldozed before I even landed. And there I was, a few months later, sipping coffee on the deck of what used to be her dream home, watching movers box up her things for auction, because justice, as it turns out, has a way of coming around slow but sure. Just yesterday, the court dissolved her precious HOA, every board member on the hook personally liable. Standing there, I thought, what would anybody do if someone stole their family's legacy, then dared them to fight back? People say revenge is petty, but sometimes it's the only language bullies understand. Name's Marcus Weatherby, 37 years old, and the third generation to call these 40 acres of Texas Hill Country home. My grandparents, fresh with oil field money, bought this land in 1947, a time when 40 acres and a creek meant you could live free, raise a family, never needing permission from anyone. Grandma planted wildflowers every spring until her hands gave out. Bluebonnets, Indian paintbrush, black-eyed Susan's flowers that rolled over the fields like a living quilt. The scent of those blooms mixed with the low rumble of cattle is what I always thought of as home. Childhood was those oak trees' rough bark scraping my hands as I built a treehouse. I lost both parents in a semi-wreck when I was 8. My grandparents took me in, raised me right in that 1940s farmhouse floors that sang with every thunderstorm, a wraparound porch built for watching rain or telling stories. Even after they were gone, I'd walk into that kitchen and swear I could smell Grandma's cornbread, see her old skillet exactly where she'd left it. They left me everything. The land, the house, the mineral rights, and a family cemetery shaded by the same oaks that had seen 4 generations buried and born. Not a palace by Dallas standards, but it was ours, meant for those who came before and after. Until, of course, divorce stormed through like a Texas twister. Lawyers bled me dry, charged extra for the bandages. So when the Army offered me a chance to dig myself out, one more year deployed, I took it. Thought, what could possibly go wrong? I set everything up, bills paid, taxes filed, lawn mowed, insurance on autopilot. Trusted my neighbor, Mrs. Arya 80, tough as boot leather, and Grandma's best friend to keep an eye out. Looking back, I should have known no one can stand up to a full-court press of sharks in Chanel. Enter Vivian Ashworth. Picture someone who could talk a wolf out of its last meal and then sell it back the bones. She rolled into town 3 years ago. Perfect hair, white Mercedes, smile sharp enough to slice cheese. Her husband's company specialized in optimizing rural properties for people who couldn't fight back. Not right away anyway. They targeted families like mine soldiers, deployed old folks alone, anyone whose guard was down. File complaints, make up stories about weeds or rodents, get homes condemned, then sweep in and claim adverse possession. A legal term, but what it really means is finders, keepers, losers cry in court. While I was sweating it out overseas, teaching Afghan soldiers how to stay alive, Vivian was filing complaints about derelict property, saying the place was abandoned, grass too tall, mail piling up. Never mind, Mrs. Arya was out there every day picking up envelopes and fussing at the lawn guys for missing a spot. When she tried to fight back, bringing records to county meetings, Vivian's lawyers threatened her with lawsuits and official inspections. Can't blame a woman pushing 80 for finally backing down. The county inspector, yeah. He'd just gotten a donation from Ashworth Holdings before condemning my family home. The crew who bulldozed it all on Ashworth's payroll, they didn't just take my land, they erased our story. Childhood photos, Grandma's recipes, the rocking chair where I got sung to sleep, tossed out like they were nothing. But the ring, my grandmother's ring, Vivian kept that. She wore it like a trophy at country club lunches, sunlight catching the diamond, lifting Grandma's teacup as if mocking everything we'd ever built. I came home to marble where there should have been mud, the bite of chlorine where the creek used to run clear. Some people steal money, Vivian stole souls. But she forgot one thing, mineral rights. My family kept them, and that's where everything started to unravel for her. The morning after I returned, a process server delivered a stack of legal threats as thick as my forearm, accusations of harassment, stalking, you name it. Half of it supposedly happened while I was dodging mortars 6,000 miles away. She had the courts declare my 40 acres common area, banned me from setting foot on the land that carried my family's bones. $5,000 a day in fines just for my truck being seen near her mansions. Granddad used to say paper beats bullets every time. Lawyers steal land faster than armies. Wish I'd listened. But that's how I ended up in Bethany Rodriguez's office, a lawyer sharp enough to make sharks nervous. She explained how Ashworth Holdings weaponized laws meant to protect soldiers. Morally bankrupt, legally sophisticated. They'd done this 8 times before to other military families. Same story, new victims. What nearly broke me was hearing from Mrs. Aria that she'd been offered a $75,000 bribe to lie about me abandoning the property. When she refused, Vivian's threats turned ugly lawsuits, legal fees, the kind of pressure that could break anyone. But Mrs. Aria stood her ground, an old woman, a survivor of war, refusing to let bullies win. Bethany and I went over every scrap of paper. That's when we found it. My grandfather's deed, mineral rights intact. Oil, gas, everything below the surface ours, unless explicitly sold, and we never sold a thing. Recent surveys showed over $2 million in gas under those meadows. Vivian's big play wasn't mansions, it was what lay underground. But Texas law, mineral rights stay with the family unless every dotted I and crossed T says otherwise. Bethany filed a federal countersuit, fraud, mineral theft, civil rights violations, everything. Suddenly, Vivian's empire looked a whole lot shakier. Vivian fought dirty press conferences, crocodile tears on the news, painting me as a dangerous veteran. County health officials tried to paint me as unstable, even banned me from the township during daylight hours. At every turn, she used the system as a weapon. Then came the twist. Bethany found the building permits for those mansions didn't exist when construction started. Satellite images time-stamped concrete trucks pouring foundations weeks before any paperwork was filed. And that creek federally protected. Every illegal dump of concrete, every pipe laid was a new violation. Millions in penalties, and more importantly, both houses were suddenly subject to demolition orders. Bethany filed the complaint, and by Monday, federal agents were on site. The energy company panicked, realized their $3 million contract with Ashworth was worth nothing. The bank where her husband sat on the board called in my loans. Anonymous complaints, vandalism, even attempted arson on my trailer. VFW vets kept watch night after night and caught it all on tape. But nothing compared to the moment Mrs. Aria ended up in the hospital from the stress. That night Bethany called. We found it. In the county records, my grandfather's old railroad easement. The only legal road to those mansions crossed land we still owned. If the railroad abandoned it, as they had, all rights reverted to us. No road, no access, no sale. Vivian's million-dollar mansions were landlocked. But the real gold mine, the mineral rights contract in the archives, oil, gas, water, gravel, all controlled by my family with the right to veto any development deeper than a flower bed. The mansions were just window dressing. The real play was to turn my family's cemetery into a fracking site. Bethany put it all together. Veterans groups, environmental activists, and a federal prosecutor joined forces. We rebuilt the legal case brick by brick. The gate we installed across the easement was more than steel and concrete. It was a line drawn in the sand, the end of Vivian's little empire. Vivian made her last wild moves. Hired PR firms, faked documents, even tried to bribe me with $4 million in cash and a Colorado house if I'd just sign away the mineral rights. Sitting there breathing in that stink of desperation, I pushed the briefcase back and told them to use the money on lawyers. They were going to need every penny. When it all came crashing down, the cameras were rolling. Vivian in designer black getting grilled on live TV about the bribes, the threats, my grandmother's ring. Mrs. Aria in her best dress telling the world how Vivian had tried to buy her silence, threatened to deport her after 50 years as an American. Then the prosecutor stepped up and announced the charges: conspiracy, fraud, money laundering, environmental crimes. Both mansions seized assets, frozen restitution to all the families Vivian had hurt. 6 months later, I sit on the porch of my rebuilt farmhouse, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over fields where wildflowers bloom again. Both mansions gone, the lands restored, the creeks clean. Mrs. Arya's doing fine, moved into the guest cottage. The mineral rights lease funds, scholarships, and conservation. The ring sits on the mantle, waiting for another generation to carry the story forward. If there's a lesson, it's this. Justice isn't a fairy tale. Sometimes it's ugly, slow, and you gotta bleed for it. But when you fight for what's right, when you build on the bones of those who came before and refuse to back down, sometimes the good guys win. This land survived depression, warfare, and theft. But what nearly destroyed it was pure, ordinary greed. So now I have to ask, where's the line between justice and revenge? What would you do if someone stole your legacy and tried to erase your family from the land? Do you think karma ever truly catches up with people like Vivian? Or do we have to build it ourselves? Drop your stories and best comebacks in the comments. Maybe someone out there needs to hear how you fought back and won.